My name is Greg Nilgis, and today's video is in support of Sonoran Desert Institute's FTH 202 revolvers course, and specifically the Module 5 assignment. Today's date is 26 May 2024, and there is no live ammunition in the workspace. And we have a firearm in front of us that is visually and physically checked to make sure it's clear. Our references for this are the modules 1 through 4 lectures for this course, as well as the 3rd edition Gunsmithing, Pistols, and Revolvers by Patrick Sweeney. So part 1 of this, we're going to talk about assessing a firearm's, or in this case a revolver's, health. And I'll use the scenario where you may be looking to purchase a used firearm. So the first thing I would do if I was looking at a used revolver that I was interested in purchasing, take an external inspection of the firearm, make sure any wear is not indicative of abuse. Perhaps there's some holster wear, no big deal. Maybe if you're not looking for a in perfect condition firearm, but you're looking to make sure that there's no indications the firearm's been dropped or anything. Looking at the condition of the sights, are they intact? Have they been damaged in any way? And from there, while I'm on visuals, I'd also take a look at any exposed screw heads to see if they are buggered up. If they are buggered up, that tells me two things. One is somebody's been inside the firearm for a reason, and two, it tells me that they didn't take the time or have the knowledge to use the proper tool for the job. So from there, I'm going to continue to the visual inspection. I'm going to check out the crown, look at the crown, see if it's in good shape. And while I'm on the crown, I'll go ahead and inspect the condition of the bore. And you can use a piece of paper as a backing to reflect light back up into the barrel. Looking at the rifling to see if there's any rust or anything like that, any corrosion, any visible cracks, any possible bulging of the barrel. All these are safety related issues, obviously. And from there, we continue that inspection to the forcing cone. Same process. We're looking at the forcing cone for condition, no cracking, and no abnormal fouling. So with that done, we can move to the cylinder, and we're going to look at the ejector rod. As we spin the cylinder spins smoothly with no snags, and there's no visible indication that the ejector rod is bent. We can function the ejector rod. It moves smoothly, as it should. We can take a visual look inside of our chambers of each cylinder, and to inspect those for any conditions to indicate bulging or cracks or excess fouling. We can make sure they accept a cartridge by inserting a snap cap or a dummy cartridge inside. And once we've done that, we can check the condition of the ejector. And it does eject as it should. We expected it to. But while we're looking at the ejector, we're going to look to make sure that there's no signs of damage on the ejector assembly, such as pieces of metal broken off or abnormal wear. Looking at the ratchet as well, same thing, no damage and no abnormal wear. Everything looks crisp as it should. We're going to check that the cylinder closes smoothly. It does. While we're on the cylinder, we're going to look at the cylinder notches to make sure they're clean and free of any damage, pieces of metal, chunks missing, which would indicate possibly a gun that's out of time. From there, we may want to check the cylinder gap with the feeler gauge, and we can also check the in-shake as well, if we had the time and the tools with us to do so at the time. From there, we're going to go ahead and cycle the firearm manually. You can do this with or without snap caps with this one because it has a transfer bar and we don't have to worry about damaging the firing pin. But we'll put some snap caps in, and we'll check it in the double action and the single action mode a few cycles. And what we're feeling for is anything that doesn't feel right, any binding, any excessive stacking, lack of smoothness. Feels like the hammer's going all the way back against the mainspring prior to the sear disengaging the double action mode. And then we could also check the single action mode. It cocks as it should. And nice break. While we're in the single action mode, we can also with their hand off the trigger. Try to bump, perhaps with something light. We can tap on it to make sure we don't get the hammer to fall. That would indicate an unsafe single action sear if that were the case. And we're basically looking for signs of timing. If we're going up into the double action mode, the gun locks up right about the time it should. The hammer isn't quite at the cock position, but it's almost there. The slide locks up, and we can even put a little tension on that with our left thumb just to feel that cylinder lock up. And that's what we're looking for. If timing is off, obviously you're going to have a problem with the firearm. And some of these others are safety related issues. And that's a general assessment of the health of a firearm. Okay, for part 2 of this video, there's no live ammunition or firearms in the work area. And we're going to talk about learning experience. I'm going to list at least 10 and why they are learning experiences. The answer to that for every one of these is going to be because there are things I didn't know or I didn't know to the level I now know. And it helps me better understand the platform. First, proper removal of the side plate. Second, proper disassembly and reassembly of the firearm. Third, cycle of operation as it applies to the single action, double action revolver. Fourth, identify and name internal components. I can now do that very well. 5, single action sear engagement. 6, double action sear engagement and how they work. Cylinder stop function and operation and how it works in with the timing sequence. And different internal safeties, whether it be integrated firing pin into the hammer, which is really no safety at all, and the evolution onto the transfer bar and hammer block safeties and how they work. Timing and criticality of each component that operates and has something to do with the timing sequence. And stoning and polishing of the internal components to improve the smoothness of a felt trigger pull. And last, and as a bonus, removal and installation of the main and trigger springs and the safe way to do that. And I'll continue to strengthen these by continuing to study the different manufacturers and their different techniques in design functions. Okay, for part 3 of this video, there's no firearm in the workspace, no ammunition in the workspace. We're going to talk about a feature, not necessarily a unique feature, but a feature of the revolver platform, why it's important and how it's evolved. And I choose safeties. And particularly as it applies to this revolver, this Taurus 856, originally revolvers had no safety system whatsoever other than the safe operation and handling. The firing pin was integrated into the hammer. So if you carried it or had it with a chamber or a live round chambered, and the firearm was dropped with the hammer cocked or not cocked, the hammer may be struck such that it forced the firing pin into the primer. And obviously that's unsafe, could have negative catastrophic consequences. But now we have, in the revolver platform, specifically this 856, we have a transfer bar system, and their other firearms have the hammer block system, and both of them prevent the hammer from in any way engaging the firing pin system unless the trigger is pulled. So if you have the hammer back and you drop the firearm, even if the jarring of that action causes the hammer to fall, the trigger won't have been pulled, which would engage the transfer bar, so the firing pin would never be struck, and hence the primer would never be struck. So that has improved, that evolution has improved the safety of the revolver platform.